Hi, everyone. It's Samantha Tennant with Fresh Fictions Video Book Club. And tonight, this is going to be a party because you are going to have two Samanthas for the price of one. I am being joined with Samantha Downing, who is the author of her latest book, Too Old for This. And Samantha is an award-winning author from her debut novel. She was nominated for the Edgar, the ITW, the McCavity Awards, also the CWA in the UK, and she won the award in France, which I am going to butcher the name of because I'm from Texas and I don't speak French. But the Prix de Lectrice,
Latrice, I don't know.
Latrice, something
Sure.
like that. But she's also an international best-selling author with all of that, with her books showing up on the bestseller list in the Sunday Times and also the USA Today best-selling. Samantha, it is so good to see you today.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, of course. I mean, because it's been a couple years since we last talked to you with your last book, A Twisted Love Story.
hmm
And that was my first introduction to you and went back and read your other books. But when I saw the premise for this one, Too Old for This, I just already started laughing at the premise itself. What was your inspiration for this?
it's weird because I actually was writing a different book. I was writing a book about a much younger female protagonist who was a serial killer, and I was kind of not really into it and not really feeling the vibe on that one. And at the time, I had some health problems and some mobility issues, and I was waiting for surgery, and I was kind of not able to be very active and very angry and very frustrated about it. And I kind of just developed, I thought, what if I take this older character and I just give her all my problems? And because she has her own mobility, and
Is this a bit of your therapy?
yeah, yeah, she's doing, her body's not as strong as it once was. Her mind is not, she doesn't have the memory that she used to have. So she's going through her own struggles. So I kind of just channeled into her, and then I found that I just loved it, and I loved the idea of this retired serial killer because um I believe it has happened before when the police, I can't remember which killer it was. It was one of the big ones. It might have been the Green River killer. I'm not sure. But they were caught years later because of DNA, and they were older and they fundamentally had retired. It was just, it takes a lot to get away with murder, specifically to get away with it, not even just to do it. So apparently, if serial killers manage to stay out of prison, they do kind of just retire sometimes and they just can't do it. They just can't physically do it anymore. So that's was my thought on this was.
Well, and there's so many, okay, this is going to sound terrible in a way, but there's so much that you can relate to with Lottie. And like
Mhm.
you said, if you were having with mobility issues as you were starting to write it, as I'm getting up there in age, there were certain things where, again, it's like, oh, yeah, I can see where this would be a problem. And I mean, again, just the whole concept of being a retired serial killer and people just keep knocking on her door and having to kind of, okay, what am I going to do about this? And I found, okay, even though this is a thriller and just talking about the subject matter, this is a serial killer, I found myself laughing and giggling at so many different points of this story, also. Because either with the different mobility issues or the technology issues, there were things, and again, I don't know if I should say, that I could find myself relating to. And it's like, oh, I
Mhm.
could see myself doing that. Oh, is that really the right thought when it's a serial killer? But I could see it happening.
Well, I think that as a writer, that's really the only way to get away with having a serial killer protagonist is they can't just be a monster because nobody wants to
Mhm.
read that, even if they are monsters. In real life, this is fiction. So in order to write a fictional protagonist like that, people have to be able to relate to them in some way. So on one page, you're like nodding along, thinking, "Yeah, I've had that experience." And then you turn the page and they're killing somebody, and you're like, "Wait, whoa, I haven't had that experience." But I think it it helps make her compelling. And you may not like her, you may not want to go to her house and have tea with her,
Oh, no.
but that's not my job as a writer. My job is to make sure the character is compelling and that you want to read what happens next and you want to see what they do next or you want to see what happens to them next. And my job as a writer is literally to just get you to turn the page and
Mhm.
not put the book down and say you're bored or you don't like it or whatever. So, um, and I think that's how I come at it as a writer for a protagonist that is doing such awful things. There has to be, they have to be a complete person with lots of different parts like we all have. And some of those parts you might relate to.
Well, and what is it that really is coming to you first in the writing process? Because the character development was so key for me on this. And even just the little nuances with Lottie and her friends and family, where at one point in the book, she's just kind of tired and she's like, I'm going to wear my comfortable gray clothes, the comfy clothes, the lounge clothes that I'm never going to walk out of the house in, but because I just don't feel like dressing up for church anymore.
Yep.
Sorry, you guys can just deal with it. I'm like, okay, so you've got those different nuances, but at the same time, the different situations that were coming up and the environment was also so critical. I mean, I could easily picture her house in certain scenes
Mhm.
and everything from the kitchen to the freezer to the roundabout setup of things. And those situations were also key to the plot. So, what did you find yourself focusing on more when you were writing? Was it the character development? Was it the different situations that Lottie found herself in, or?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the character and because she's the only narrator in the book, she had to be able to carry the story and be, as I said, a complete person she has a full life. She has friends, she has church, she has a family, a son, grandchildren. She is actually fine in her retired life. This trouble comes literally knocking at her door. So, and now she has to protect it. She has a life that's worth protecting. And to her, Plum, who is the first one to come to her door, is a threat to it. And if you're going to write a thriller, the threats really have to increase. So every threat had to be more dangerous. And she doesn't go out looking to them. Most of them come to her door, and she's not out seeking them out. She's not being a serial killer that hunts her victims. They're coming to her, and each one is a bigger threat. So for a thriller, I was concerned with making sure the tension was escalating and that the risk to her, the more people she killed, the more she was putting herself at risk. Everything was a risk. So she had to get even more creative about how she was going to get away with each one without everything coming right back to her since they all show up at her house. Um, so it was a challenge to try to make it so um, it felt like the story was always moving forward and there was always just another challenge for her. And in her case, she had to find a way around each challenge. So I like writing my characters sort of into a corner and then having them
Mhm.
try to dig their way out and get creative. And I think that's what creates real suspense in a story.
Did you find when you were writing it that I don't know if this is how I want to say it necessarily, but that the tone was more challenging than your other previous books? Because, like you said, with every knock on the door, there's another new difficulty. And I'm trying to say things without spoiling it too much for our
Right.
readers and listeners who haven't checked this out yet. But things do get progressively worse. And each time something else happens, I found myself going, oh no. Okay, what's next? But I didn't have the again, it's not my normal feeling when I'm reading a thriller where I'm in the sense of dread almost. I mean, I'm dreading it, but with Lottie, but almost of like, oh God, what else could go wrong for this poor lady? And what is she going to do? It just seemed to, despite the subject matter, still lighter in nature. So, was that something you were striving for? Did it come about naturally? Was it more challenging because it was different from some of your other books?
Yeah, it definitely was my intent to have humor in it. Most of my books, they're not bleak and they're not
Mhm.
depressing. And a serial killer book can be because it can be taken very seriously or it can be taken the way I've done it, which is with a bit more humor and a bit lighter of a situation. I don't want to depress anybody with my books. I want you to have fun reading them and enjoy
Mhm.
reading them and say, wow, that was crazy. I cannot believe I was rooting for that woman. Like, that's crazy. Um, or I can't believe I just agreed with her or related to her or whatever. So there is her inner monologue is where her humor really comes out and her
Mhm.
real thoughts. What she's presenting to the world is something very different. But she certainly is very snarky, and I'm definitely a snarky person. So some of those lines just sort of come to me naturally, and I put them in and try to. She's doing some pretty gruesome things too. So I also want to balance that out with a little bit of lightness. Otherwise, it becomes too much.
Mhm. But the gruesomeness wasn't, it definitely didn't turn me off. I mean, it just fit naturally with what this old little lady would probably do in the case.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, I think it was the case of going through some of these things with my parents as they've aged and they've had the walker and the canes. And then as I'm getting older and knowing, hey, here are some of the different challenges, like again, oh no, I could so see these things happening.
Mhm.
And so are these things playing out in your mind as you're like a movie? As you're doing the writing, or is it just a flash of idea and then it's like, okay, I need to put this particular scene on paper and I'll come back and figure out how it fits into the overall story.
Yeah, no, I write in a linear way. I
Mhm.
don't outline my books, so I'm what they call a pantser or a discovery writer. I start from chapter one and write chapter one through to two, and each chapter gives me a new idea for the next one. And the more I write, the more ideas I start to get. So it's like the act of writing a chapter or a scene produces the next ideas. It's really impossible for me to think it through from beginning to end before I even start. So the more I get into the story, the more avenues I see it can go, paths I see it can go down, and then it's just a matter of choosing where I want to take the story. So I
Mhm.
can't really, I'm not a chess player. I can't think 50
Mm.
moves in advance. I really can't. I'm one chapter at a time and I just build the story like you're building a brick wall, just one brick at a time.
So did you essentially just start with poor Plum? She's wanting to do this docuseries and she knocks
Yep.
on the door. Bad luck for her. And then as other subsequent characters are introduced, was it then like you said, kind of what naturally came to you, or did you kind of have an idea of, oh, here are other people who are going to face some challenges, or she might want to kill this one, but she's never actually going to take action on certain characters. Because at some point
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, she's just going to end up killing everybody and just
Just burn
go
the whole
out in a
place down. Yeah.
big flame of glory, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I started with just the idea of a retired serial killer coming out of retirement. And then, so what would bring them out of retirement? The idea that they are at risk. And she certainly was from Plum being a reporter or a docu-journalist person. And from there, though, you're going to get more people are going to look for this person who has now vanished. And I don't want to do any spoilers about how Lottie commits her murders or anything like that. But in any case, she kind of just goes missing. So she knows there's other gonna people coming to her door, and they do, and she's gonna have to navigate around how to deal with this and what to say. And it kind of helped being an older woman. She sort of plays into that when it's convenient for her. And she also is very good at manipulating situations. And there's that those scenes were kind of the most fun for me to write is when she's playing with people and they don't know that she's playing with them. They
Hmm.
think she's being real. And we, as the reader, know she's not being real because we can read her inner monologue, but she's very clearly lying and manipulating and deceiving a lot of the time,
Hmm.
all of the time, really. And, you know, it is not easy to get away with murder. You have to put a lot of work into this.
But one of the aspects that I enjoyed with this story too were kind of the changes over time that she had to face, not only with her body and being an older woman coming out of retirement, but the changes in technology. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen, like with cell phones.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I notice that in a lot of TVs or movies that I've been watching lately. And if I go back and watch something, it's like, well, that whole plot line would never even happen anymore because we have a cell phone.
Mhm.
Whereas before, I mean, you were tied to that landline phone and what are you going to do? And here's all the new challenges of what all you can do
Yep.
with the cell phone, which is very inconvenient if you are a serial killer. I mean,
Yes,
so did
very
you find
much
you were
so.
having to go back and say, oh, here's a nuance to this particular element of technology, where it be it the cell phone, advances in DNA, home setup. I mean, all these different elements that we might not have been thinking of so much even 20 years ago.
Yeah, and that's definitely something different for Lottie is there's a whole new world of technology now and it's very dangerous. So she has to put some work into thinking how she's going to deal with this. There's a writers mystery conference that I have here locally where I live. I live in California and they have every year I go and they have panels of experts there. And last year when I was there, I was in edits for this book, and they had a cyber expert, and they had a forensic pathologist, and lawyers, and judges, and police officers, and FBI agents. And I went with like a list of questions. And the cyber person and the FBI agent basically said, if you're gonna to get away with a crime, you have to not carry a cell phone with you. You have to not drive a car that has GPS in it. You have to cover your license plate so it's not seen by cameras. And you have to wear a mask because there are cameras everywhere that will see your
Mhm.
face. And if you don't do all of those things, you're already at the scene of the crime. We can already trace you to and it's funny how often I see that on TV shows where I see the criminal there and they have a cell phone on them. And I'm like, well, you're already done. Your location data is going to show you were right there when, when the murder happened. So you're already in trouble. And so I wanted to bring an element of reality about that into the book and how Lottie deals with her phone and um, just basically the blanket, like if you've got it on you, it's trackable. So don't have it on you.
Mhm.
And they basically said the cybercrime person and the FBI agent basically said, if you commit a crime of passion, if you kill somebody in the heat of the moment and you're already there with your cell phone and your car and everybody knows you're at this location, the only thing you can do is pick up the phone, call the police, and say it was self-defense
Mhm.
because you're already in trouble. So that's your that's your that's going to be your only option if you're going to try to get away with it and lie. That's literally the only lie you can tell. You can't say you weren't there. Um,
Mhm.
so there's you can get the problem with technology, I find as a thriller writer, is you don't want to get bogged down in it.
Yeah.
Because unless you're writing a tech thriller, people aren't there to read a tech thriller. So you don't want to, I don't even want to get too techy about it. I just want to get the basics and make it so it's dealt with in a somewhat in a believable way without it being overwhelming with tech information.
Mhm. But I thought it fit well. I thought you did a really great job of fitting it in
Thank
to
you.
the overall storyline. Because you're
Thank you.
right. I mean, there are these technical advances, and you figure out, oh, here is the problem, like with a cell phone tracking. But then there's also elements where it's again so relatable for this character of, oh, well, yeah, I now need to deal with spreadsheets on my computer. And how am I going to balance these things? And what else am I looking at? And or even different apps. And again, the smartphone versus a regular phone. You don't have to get into super detailed tech for pretty much any of us to relate to, okay, what is new about this particular phone because it's different. This is why my
Right.
dad has the same cell phone I do. So when he has a problem, I'm like, okay, you want to click on this exact button? We can walk ourselves
Exactly.
through it.
Exactly. Exactly. And Lottie also finds a way to use some technology to her advantage, some apps and things that are helpful to her. So technology can go both ways. It's just a matter of how much of it you want to have in the book.
Mhm. Well, and from another fun element, I know that didn't you just go to get back from BoucherCon?
Yeah, I did. I don't know why my camera's so blurry. I'm just going to try to wipe my screen off a little. I don't understand why it's blurry at all. I think
Again, the
it's this.
challenges of technology,
I
right?
know, right? It's not usually this blurry, and it's really weird. Sorry, but
It's okay.
that's okay. It's like I'm filtered or something. I
Yes,
did
you've
get
got
to
that Star Trek glow, right?
I know, right? I did just get back from BoucherCon. It was the first one I've ever been to, which is amazing. I was at Thriller Fest once in
Mhm.
2019, which is when my debut came out, and have not been to another giant conference since. I've been to smaller ones, but not the big one. And I used to live in New Orleans, and that's where it was. So I thought, well, I'll go to that, and at least I'll be
It's a
able to
good
see some
excuse to go,
friends.
right?
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, it's overwhelming and it's just massive amounts of people for, a writer who's used to I'm just sitting in front of my computer alone, and suddenly there's just massive people. So it's a little bit shocking at first, but then it's great because there's so many people I met that I see online, bookstagrammers, authors, all kinds of people that are bloggers, all kinds of people that I just recognized from their picture, which was amazing.
Well, how critical is it, do you feel it is to go to these types of cons? Because you go to the ones there locally where you were able to meet with experts, and here, like you said, it's a much larger con, different groups of people. What is it that you're getting out of those usually as a writer?
When I went to Thriller Fest, I didn't know any other thriller authors. So it was suggested to me, my publisher and agent said, if you can go, go, because you will get to meet a lot of other thriller authors, and it's always good to be part of the community and know, and you all know. And it was great. In 2019, I met a lot of authors, and then COVID hit. And everybody was doing everything online. Everybody was arranging interviews and arranging Q&As and book appearances together because we couldn't see each other in person. So it was almost like COVID for a while. Not only could we not meet in person, but we found a way around it. It turned out you didn't need to meet in person. I was cold emailing some writers and saying, "Hey, do you want to do this?" or "Hey, do you want to read my new book? Can we send you a copy of my new book?" and whatever. And um, and everybody was great and everybody was really nice. And I didn't have any issues with people even saying no. We all were in the same boat. And now that conferences are back, and there's of course been so many new writers just since 2019 that have come on the scene that I didn't meet back in 2019. So it's kind of crazy to meet like so many people that I had not met just 5, 6 years ago. Um, so I don't, it's conferences are very expensive. So between the travel and the hotel, and um, so it, I don't know that they're mandatory, but if you're an aspiring writer, they do have opportunities for you to meet with agents and editors and authors and yeah, I know people who have gone before they were published and they ended up meeting their agent because they went to one
Mm.
of those things or were referred because they went to one of those things. So I guess it depends on where you are in your career. They certainly can be helpful. I would never say they're mandatory.
Mhm. And it's always nice when they are in a fun location like New Orleans or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And for people that can afford to take time off work or
Mhm.
afford to do a lot of traveling that's work slash kind of fun, whatever, um, then that's great. I divided it. I consider it work that I'm working there, even if I'm having fun. So I was at the conference all day, every day, didn't leave during the day. And at night, I would have dinner with my local friends. So it was like I was still putting in a work day and didn't leave to go. Well, of course I didn't need to go sightseeing, but that's kind of how I think of it, is I'm there for work. I'm not
Mhm.
really there for a vacation.
Well, Samantha, I want to switch over to what we call our fresh fiction facts. These are some questions off that hopefully will have answers off the top of your head, but we have been
Okay.
known to stump people.
Okay.
Okay. Who would you most not want to be stuck in an elevator with?
Uh, Anybody who's gonna lecture me. I don't care who it is. I don't want to hear anybody's lecture, and I don't want anybody to mansplain anything to me. So I don't even know. There could be like a million people that fit that bill. Oh, did I lose you? Oh, there you
Okay,
are.
I'm
Okay,
back.
you froze just for a second.
Okay.
Okay, go
It
ahead.
was one of those
So,
I'm bouncing back and forth. I'm like, did I freeze? Did you freeze? It was me.
okay.
Okay,
I don't anybody that doesn't mansplain me or lecture at me or talk at me, whoever
gotcha.
that is.
Okay, keeping in mind the theme of your latest book,
Mhm.
what are three things that you think everyone will would should keep in their house as they get older?
As I get older, I would say um, a phone. If you have a multi-level house, a phone on every floor in case you or some way to communicate on every floor. Um, a freezer in your garage just in case, and always have tea and cookies or something for guests that might just pop by.
Yes. Yes. And also, because I love this touch, the different types of cookies.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
whether you want the good stuff, the the on sale generic brand stuff that doesn't taste as good, whatever. Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. For readers, that was one of the giggle moments for me when it was obvious for the different types of cookies. Because again, I'm like, oh, no, I can relate to that.
And some people get no cookies.
Oh,
No cookies.
exactly. Yeah. Come in and then right back as soon as you can get back out. Where is your perfect idea of paradise?
On a private island, for sure.
Lots of
Absolutely.
beach.
Yeah, a beach and a private island that is completely disconnected. So I can disconnect, I can do my writing, I can take a lovely walk in the afternoon, and I only connect if I really, really want to. But otherwise, I'm just completely on an island.
What is your most dog-eared book? Either the one that you reread for pleasure or something that you go to for research.
Um, well, in terms of let's see, I have it's far more gruesome than mine, but one of my all-time favorite books is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. I think it's brilliant satire. I think it's really funny, but it is extremely, extremely gruesome and gory. So probably not for everybody. But my recent reads, I actually have read a couple that have made it onto my favorite list. God of the Woods by Liz Moore, I thought was absolutely brilliant and immediately is becoming the dog-eared, not quite
Mhm.
dog-eared yet. It's a little too new. Um, um, Gillian Flynn, Gone Girl certainly is one of my favorites, but I also love her book Dark Places, which was an earlier one of hers and is really one of my favorites. And I would say I'll stop there because then I'll say those three.
What is something that can take you immediately out of a story, either one that you're reading or watching?
There are times when I've seen writers sort of pivot away from like we're in a scene and then they sort of pivot and like almost lecture you for a paragraph,
Mm,
almost like they're explaining something about humanity or life or what have you, but it's not really from the character's point of view. It's just like this almost a side, it's almost like a pivot. And then they're not really talking to you, but that's what it feels like. Like
Hmm.
I guess it's supposed to be what the character is thinking, but sometimes the transition is not so great. So you're right in the middle of them having a conversation or a scene or something, and then they'll be like, and that's the thing about life, da 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 da
Hmm.
da da da, and almost like they're, I don't know, it's weird. I guess that transition sometimes just doesn't work for me, and I feel like, whoa, whoa, I feel like somebody just read a paragraph to me and now we're back in the scene or something. So I think transitions can be really tricky. But I've seen a couple books over my life where I just feel like, wow, that was very jarring.
Other than books, what is something that you own a ridiculous amount of?
Coffee, anything coffee related, coffee cups. I drink all the coffee. Like I don't care if it's plain black or fancy with all the sugar syrup, all the coffee. I'm all about the coffee.
What is your go-to gas food station or gas station food that you grab on road trips?
Like other than coffee, you're saying?
Other than coffee. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Probably a blend of salty and sweet. So I probably would get something sweet. If I was getting candy, I'd probably get M&Ms, or mini donuts. And then for salty, sometimes some nuts, sometimes some chips, but definitely one, like a thing of each is what I'm going for.
What is the craziest thing that you've bought online or through an as seen on TV ad?
Craziest thing. I don't buy a lot of stuff. That's a good question, but uh, oh, I bought I got sick and I think maybe it was COVID, maybe it wasn't, but I lost my sense of smell like completely. They say COVID does that, but I don't even remember if it was COVID. It wasn't that strong. It wasn't that strong of a sickness, but like I literally stuck my nose in a jar of peanut butter and could not smell a thing. And that's
Oh,
so I bought those scent things that try to smell, you try to train your smell back. And they
oh,
send you
wow.
these little scent things that have really strong scents. There's like a cinnamon and a clove and a eucalyptus. And you start sniffing to try to like retrain to get your smell back. And then I got my smell back with like in 2 weeks or something. So I probably would have got it back anyway, but I freaked out thinking I was never going to be able to
Oh,
smell
gosh. Yeah.
again.
Okay. Even though Too Old for This just got released in August,
Mhm.
we always want to know, what are you working on next? Have you
You
had any
know,
ideas for another book?
I've actually been working on a couple of things and I don't know which one's going to take off. So I'm kind of waiting to see which one has inspired me more. But yeah, I'm definitely still writing. I'm always writing.
Well, then, where is the best place for our readers and listeners to stay up to date with what is going on and find out what the next thing is when you make that decision?
My website is samanthadowning.com, and on there's links to my social media. I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook. So those are the main places. Instagram probably more than the other. That's where I post everything. Yeah.
Well, Samantha, it was a joy to talk with you. And for our readers and listeners, again, I highly recommend her latest book, Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. It's available now anywhere that you buy books. Like I said, I have been giggling throughout. This was such a fun book as a thriller. Samantha Downing, it was great to see you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.